conservatives, we're not liberals, we're nothing. But we understand you guys have had thousands and thousands and thousands of governments. Have you had any that worked? Yeah, we've got one that's worked. Well, by golly, let's do that. What would they have? They wouldn't have what we have today. They'd have what we had up until about 30, 35 years ago. It's a great question.
Okay.
I was wondering, we took a trip to California here not too long ago, and on the way, I think about 3 out of every 10 vehicles on the road, not including the big rigs, have government plates on them. You know, either state and mostly U.S. government plates. And I thought, why can't the states do all that? Why can't they be state employees? Why do they have to be federal employees? We give them the money and they give it back to them anyway.
Yeah.
And another thing was, we learned recently about the living Constitution. Is that something that...
Well, the Constitution isn't dead, that's for sure.
The living.
But on the other hand, I don't view it as living either. It is what it was. It is what it is.
There's supposed to be another one, another Constitution that's called a living Constitution that was put in place to circumvent the original Constitution.
Well, he's talking about it's how it's being reinterpreted.
Yeah, that is a philosophy of interpretation, which I don't agree with. By the way, another statistic for you. Today, the federal government is twice the size it was in 2000. Twice, in 12 years, it has doubled in size as far as employees are concerned.
Okay, Larry.
I hope all the statistics that you gave us in this meeting is, you're a good friend of Romney's, I hope.
I am.
I hope you enlighten him with this, so in these debates.
Mitt gets it. This guy gets it. He and I became friends when we were governors. Our wives became friends. We were friends with the Palentis. This is a guy, in fact, I traveled with him about 3 months ago. I'm co-chair of his campaign here, and I was 4 years ago also. And about 3 months ago, I traveled with him and had we were on some plane rides where it was just he and I. We had a good time to talk. But I knew him long before I signed on to the campaign. This guy gets it. Now, when he becomes president, is he going to do things absolutely the way we want them done? No. You're not. That ain't going to happen. In fact, my wife and I occasionally don't agree. So I suspect we're not going to agree with the president from time to time. But he gets it. If anybody can turn this thing around, he can. He picked Paul Ryan. There's nobody in Congress better suited to help put this train back on the track than Paul Ryan. I wouldn't have picked Paul Ryan if I were Romney. I'd have picked Portman, because Portman, being from Ohio, he doesn't guarantee Ohio, but if he brought a precinct or two from Ohio, look, you know who's going to be president of the United States? Whoever wins Ohio.
Yes.
Nobody in this room, none of our votes are going to make any difference. We're going to give them 4 electoral votes. You got to win 2 out of the 3 of Florida, Pennsylvania, and Ohio. We're probably going to win Florida. Obama's probably going to win Pennsylvania, although I've seen some numbers otherwise. But that leaves Ohio in play. No Republicans ever become president without winning Ohio. And he knows. These guys know. I just, in fact, an hour and a half before I was here, I was on a conference call with the vice presidential candidate, hopefully the next vice president. And Ryan, those guys are up. They're ready for this. And Ryan understands this. He's getting ready. But what went through my mind when I heard about Ryan is he's getting ready to govern. Mitt, you got to get elected first, And my pick was Portman, but I think that Portman's going to help him, obviously. Okay.
All right. Parrish.
And then you're next after. Senator, you mentioned that the system had been working for 200 years and it was the last 30. But the way that I read history is a little different. In 1791, they violated the Constitution by creating an international or a national bank that wasn't there. A few years later, they were fielding an army against farmers because they wouldn't pay a tax on whiskey. Then in 1798, you had President John Adams signing the Alien and Sedition Acts. It seems to me like the system has not really been working since the very beginning. Like there's a fundamental flaw here where we've granted power to a central authority that's been abused since day one. So how do we fix this problem? How do we take that power back and make sure that that central authority cannot abuse that power.
Well, you know, it certainly isn't any silver bullet for that. But there has got to be a change in the thinking in this culture, in this country. Culture has got to change. Culture has got to go back to what the founding fathers had, and that is, look, we can take care of ourselves. Just leave us alone.
Yes.
Anyway.
Hold on, you're fourth. Bob.
Couple things. We hear what you're saying, but nobody seems to figure out how we're going to fix it. When you talk about $11.5 billion a day, that's at current interest rates. If the interest rates go up 1%, that number could double.
I don't think it quite doubles at 1%, but it does. It goes up substantially.
The other-
I've actually seen some graphs of what you're talking
And the
about.
last thing is the banks have literally raped this country blind with the money that they've taken in TARP, the money that they've had guaranteed by the Fed and the government, the loans that they had, and nobody seems to want to change the FASB rules back to mark-to-market and not to magic. So nobody really knows what these banks are worth because none of the things that are on their books are real. That scares the shit out of me.
Yeah. Well, there's lots of stuff that scares me, and I am more concerned about the U.S. being able to pay its bills. Certainly, those are issues. There's no question about it. But to me, the central issue is the spending. That is the central issue. I mean, I could stand here and rattle off probably 25 of those kinds of things that you just talked about. But you got to address the fundamental. If we don't address the global problem of being able to pay our bills, none of this is going to make any difference. It won't matter.
Pete,
It won't matter.
you want to answer something?
This is a simple two-part question. Do you think Obama can win? And if he does, can we survive?
Absolutely, Obama can win. You know, I don't know how this plays out. You know, I say all the time, you know, we can't stand 4 more years of this. And one of the things that really troubles me that I've seen around, I mean, you heard these numbers. I mean, how can this guy possibly even be standing? I mean, nobody's ever gotten elected with these kind of numbers. And yet, you see, the thing is in play. It is very close. Could he win? You bet he could win. You know, they're beating a snot out of Romney on his tax returns. And people are fixated on that, which don't have a damn thing to do with anybody. I don't care if the guy never paid any taxes. The question is, can he save this country?
Well, because the media's in his
Anyway.
back pocket.
Lee's next.
Senator, just want to say thanks, Lee Rice. You mentioned the Bureau of Public Debt. How closely related are they to the feds? Because
Well,
that
they're-
seems to be the big issue there.
Yeah,
The Federal Reserve.
they aren't
Because they're
related
not-
to the Federal Reserve, but they are part of the U.S. Treasury Department. They are a bureau of the United States Treasury.
But they're not.
They're federal employees.
Yeah, they're federal employees, but they're not part of the. He's talking about the Federal Reserve. They're not part of the Federal Reserve.
Well, the Federal Reserve it's foreign to America.
It's not.
They're operated that way. There's not anything to do with government. So that seems to be a big issue there.
Huge issue.
It's private.
Okay, Tana?
Do you think the PTC is going to pass the Senate? Do you have a feeling when
The
there?
PTC.
The wind production tax credit.
Is it going to be renewed?
Yeah.
I can't answer that question. You know, we've got. They keep talking about the lame duck session. I'm rather hoping they're not going to have a lame duck session. But the stuff, John's going to have to help me with this. But the list of things that happened in the lame duck session before the first of the year is the Bush tax cuts expire. The sequester kicks in with a $1.2 million reduction in spending, which isn't enough. The doc fix kicks in. John, the debt ceiling is probably going to hit us either there or shortly thereafter. I mean, there's an incredible number of things. Part of the, and then there's a whole bunch of those tax things that you just talked about. I can't answer that. I don't know. I can't answer it.
Okay.
Okay.
Are you for or
Gary.
against it?
I'll vote against it. I vote against all.
You're on the list, I'll get to you. Garrett.
Okay, question I have, now that you've installed all this fear, that we kind of understand is, we're in debt, so to secure those debts, it seems we not only mortgage our children's future, but we've mortgaged all of the resources that this great country has. Now, the question I have is, it seems to me that we have been told the #1 oil reserve. We have a lot of resources in timber and mining. We've lost all our manufacturing companies. Do we have enough value in our country to offset all of these debts?
I believe that we do, but the value is in the entrepreneurial spirit of the American people. We are people that get up in the morning and go to work, and that's what that's why people loan us money. They believe we're going to pay them back. That's the only reason they're loaning us.
So then the second part of my question would be, how do we get big government out of states' rights so we can go drill our oil, put our people back to work, mine our forests, and run the cattle up there, quit having forest fires,
Well,
quit importing beef from Argentina?
I really like that idea. I raise cattle.
I know you do.
You're looking at out of the 535 members of Congress, you're looking at the only guy that owns a cow. Can you believe that? 535 people, I'm the only one that owns a cow.
Ken?
We've had 40 years of public education teaching our kids liberalism, and I think that's,
Isn't it amazing we're still standing?
it's amazing. And I think that's one of the reasons why maybe Obama's doing so well in polls, because our kids think this is an equal country. And
I agree with you. You should see the teachers when I give that speech. Tell them the government didn't do it. The government didn't do this for them. They don't want to hear that. I agree with you. I mean, a lot of you, I'm sure, went to different institutions, higher learning, and you know, you deal with people in colleges and universities generally. I mean, it's just staggering. I mean, they think like Obama does. You know, they don't understand the free market system. They don't care about the free market. This is the first president we've ever had that doesn't understand and appreciate the entrepreneurial, free market, capitalistic system. You know, let me tell you why. Let me tell you why. Should we be surprised at that? Look, even Jimmy Carter, who used to be the worst president we ever had, even Jimmy Carter ran a peanut farm, and he knew that you had to take in more than you spent. This guy has never run a business. What he understands is, number one, he taught college, and number two, he was a community organizer. What does a community organizer do? Anybody here know what a community organizer does? A community organizer goes out and he registers voters. He registers voters in the cities, in the big cities, and he makes sure that everybody's getting all the benefits they can possibly get from the government. Well, what would you expect a person would do like that who was elected president? Any more than if one of us was elected president, you would do what your mindset tells you. He wants to see that people are registered to vote and that they get benefits from the government. That's what he did. That's where he comes from. This isn't rocket science. He doesn't understand why he thinks the way he does. That's what he is.